Hi, everyone. So welcome back to my channel. So today we are excited to welcome back Maggie Bell. Maggie did a video about a year ago and gave us some phenomenal information. I'll link it in the description box below. But Maggie is a registered dietitian. She is a registered nurse. She has multiple years of experience in this field, and she is committed to helping women and people that are dealing with chronic health issues. She's an expert in blood sugar management and cortisol management. And today she's going to share all of her wisdom and expertise. So grab your beverage of choice, get your notebook, and let's go.
Yes.
So welcome back,
Thank
Maggie.
you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to have you back. And so we had even talked about this last year when we were like, well, you're going to come back again and we're going to do a little deeper dive, talking really about cortisol and blood sugar management, because both of those, as many people know, are directly correlated to hair health,
Yes.
to women that are dealing with alopecia. And so one of the things that we've talked about, or even that I've done in some of my research, is really trying to figure out how to manage blood sugar, not just for hair, because it's important, obviously, for our overall well-being.
Yes.
Hair sometimes is where the issues manifest, right? And so the blood sugar, which is almost, I feel like, in some ways similar to the hair loss, I feel like, I don't know, it's like an epidemic, particularly amongst people of color, right, with blood sugar. And then the overall, especially as we talk about cortisol, stress management. Many women dealing with hair loss, it either is caused by stress or it's the result of the hair loss is causing stress, or vice versa. And so
Right.
it's really important for us to figure out, I think, and understand what is actually happening in our bodies, and that there are things we can do to mitigate symptoms, to reverse, issues and things. And so we really want to tap into your expertise to help us understand, what is going on with blood sugar? Like, how do we manage our blood sugar? And then also, we'll move into talking about cortisol and how to manage that, and then some tips and things that you can share along the way. So, thanks for coming back to talk to us about blood sugar management and cortisol management.
Yes. Again, thank you for having me. And I do want to say this, Lamb, before we get into the questions. I want to say and encourage you all to never give up on your health. I know a lot of times it can be very discouraging because you feel like you've done so much. You've done all this research and you've implemented all these things, and maybe things aren't really going the way that you want them to go. But I just really want you to dig deep and know that there is so much power to not giving up on yourself and to keep going.
Amen. Amen. I saw a quote yesterday that's kind of similar to that. It was by Dr. Anita Phillips in her book, The Garden Within. And it says, there was a quote, she said, faith believes that it's possible, hope believe that it's possible for me.
Yes.
Right. And so some of us, what we need is a good dose of hope. Right.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
as we talk through this information, let's look at that, everyone, as this is information, because these are things that we can be hopeful about, for our experiences. So
Yes.
let's dive in. Thank you for sharing that too. That's so important to be reminded on a daily basis. So let's talk about blood sugar management. There was one. I'll say that there was an interview we did with a functional medicine practitioner, and she talked
Mhm.
about how sugar, when it's in our body, or in our body, it actually goes to wherever there's inflammation. So she was saying how sugar, I guess, increases excess inflammation, right? Excess sugar increases excess inflammation. So can you talk to us, and for women dealing with hair loss, even if we don't know what necessarily the root cause is, we know that particularly with scarring alopecias, the CCCA, there is a connection with inflammation. And so we should always be in the mindset of reducing excess inflammation, right? And so can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, so that's a good point. Sugar is the driver of inflammation, and many people will say that sugar is the driver of a lot of diseases that we have out there. So when I say sugar or excess sugar, because we do have natural sugars like from our
Mhm.
fruits and even from our vegetables. But when we say sugar, excess sugar, what we mean is from like your processed, your packaged, and your fast foods. So your cookies, your cakes, your ice creams, your little Debbie snacks, those things like that are really what you want to work to either eliminate or significantly decrease from your diet. And so having a stable blood sugar is going to ensure a consistent supply of nutrients to your hair follicles. And so when you have these sudden spikes and drops in your blood sugar, you can potentially disrupt that supply, leading to weaker hair growth over time. And it's also really important to know too that your blood sugar also impacts your body's hormonal balance. And so, for instance, insulin, a hormone that many of us are familiar with, is directly linked to blood sugar regulation. And so when you have those high blood sugars over time, that can lead to insulin resistance, which is where the body cells become less responsive to insulin. And so this condition not only affects our overall health, but it also contributes to hair thinning and loss in a couple of different ways. So one way is that insulin resistance can lead to higher levels of androgens, which are hormones in both men and women. Some people just kind of relate it to men, but women also have these hormones as well. And elevated androgen levels can cause your hair follicles to actually shrink, leading to thinner hair, leading to thinner hair and a condition known as androgenetic alopecia. And then also, insulin resistance can interfere with the body's ability to absorb and utilize nutrients effectively. So, hair follicles, as we know, require a steady supply of vitamins, minerals, and proteins to thrive. And a deficiency in these essential nutrients can weaken our hair and make it more prone to falling out. And also, as we started talking about, chronic high blood sugar levels can cause systemic inflammation, and inflammation around those hair follicles can lead to conditions like folliculitis, which can impede that hair growth and contribute to hair loss. So having stable blood sugar levels is really important and can help to minimize those damaging effects to your hair.
That's really good. Good for us to see the connection. Sometimes we don't always get to see the connection. It's just do this, and so the connection is important. Can you tell us what are good blood sugar levels? Like what should they be?
Yeah, and I will say that everyone has different numbers. Probably when you talk to your doctor, they may vary, but it's just really important to kind of do your research first. And then of course just kind of do what you feel led to do. But I always tell my clients that when you wake up in the morning, you want your blood sugar to be less than 100. That's what we call a fasting blood sugar.
Okay.
Now, after you eat, of course, your blood sugar levels are going to be a little bit higher, because when we eat foods like carbohydrates, they cause an immediate increase in our blood sugar. So I tell people that really if you take your blood sugar immediately after eating, it may be as high as like 180 or 200, but really you want to pay attention to that blood sugar that's about 2 hours after you eat.
Okay.
You want it to be around that 140 range.
Okay. And when it comes to the things that we can eat that support a healthy blood sugar, can we talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So the first thing that I tell people is that you want to make sure that in all of your meals and snacks that you have a protein, a fat, and a carbohydrate. And those are the macronutrients. And what I find is that a lot of people are just eating meals and snacks that are very high in carbohydrates. And so out of all the macronutrients, carbohydrates are the only macronutrient that cause an immediate rise in your blood sugar. So if you're eating meals that are very rich in carbohydrates or high in carbohydrates, you're going to be on that blood sugar roller coaster, is what I like to call it. So when you eat that meal, it's going to go up. And then after it's ran its course in your body, it's going to drop. And like I said, a lot of people snack throughout the day. So literally your blood sugar is doing this because you're eating meals and you're snacking in between those meals. So you can help to mitigate that by making sure that you pair your carbohydrates with a protein and a fat, and you're
Mhm.
going to have more balance.
For that. Talk to us about what you mean when you say carbohydrates, because there's like I've heard there's simple, there's complex. So what's your sort of description and definition when we talk about carbohydrates?
Yes, because that's really important because
Mhm.
not everyone knows what a carbohydrate is.
Right.
So, carbohydrates are going to be your fruits, your vegetables, and there are even levels when it comes to that I'll talk about as well. But it's also going to be your grains, so like your oatmeals, your quinoas, your bread. Also, we've got to remember that carbohydrates are drinks. So, your fruit juices, your orange juice, your grape juice, your apple juice, even your honey, your maple syrup, your jams, your jellies, and then also your packaged and processed goods like your ice cream, your cookies, your cakes. Also, beans, which I consider to be a grain, are going to be considered a carbohydrate. But those are the main foods that I tell people you want to be aware of and that are considered carbohydrates.
And then when we think about things like white rice or the cakes and breads, those are the things that we obviously want to minimize um, or eliminate.
Right. So I do tell people I consider rice in general to be a grain.
Okay.
And I know that people love their rice and that people also love their bread and other things. And I tell people you don't necessarily have to go without, but I would always make sure that you're mindful of your portion sizes because I do, especially when you go to like Asian restaurants,
Hmm.
your whole container is literally rice.
Hmm.
And so, of course, that's just spiking your blood sugar. And so, you want to be mindful of your portion sizes. And then you always want to make sure that you're not eating your carbs alone, that you're pairing it with a protein and a fat. And also, what I tell people as well is to be mindful of the order that you eat your food because that matters as well. So, I tell my clients to make sure that they have your protein. It depends on the meal, but for breakfast, to make sure that you have your protein and fat first and then your carb last. And so
Hmm.
basically what that's going to do is going to allow that it's the protein and fat serve as somewhat of a buffer.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
when you do eat that carb, you're not just spiking, it's got something that is basically like
Hmm.
sitting on. And
Right.
so for your lunch and dinner meals, I tell my clients to make sure that they eat their non-starchy vegetables first and then eat your protein and fat and then your carb last. And
Hmm.
you can even, it's a little bit tricky with combination meals. Of course, if you've got like a lasagna
Yes.
or something where it's all combined. I'm not going to tell you to disassemble it,
Right.
but when you can, just doing that will help you manage your blood sugar tremendously.
Hmm. Hmm. And where does fiber come into play from your perspective? Like either supplements or I know there's fruit, our fruits and vegetables have fiber as well, but
Yes.
where does that come into play with supporting the blood sugar?
Yeah, so I encourage my clients to get their fiber primarily from their fruits and vegetables.
Mhm.
And I really have a big emphasis on vegetables because I feel like vegetables can be better than fruits in the sense of it's not as much sugar
Mhm.
and there are more nutrients in vegetables. So, and this is what I did forget to make sure I mentioned from the last question, but when with your fruits and vegetables, like I said, there are levels to that. So
Mhm.
you've got your low and high glycemic fruits. So basically that just means that some fruits have quite a bit more sugar than others. So, for instance, your pineapples, your mangoes, your watermelon, those are going to be considered high glycemic fruits. And so, compared to like your oranges and your apples, those are going to be more low glycemic fruits. So, I
Mhm.
encourage my clients to really put an emphasis more so on the low glycemic fruits because they're not going to have as much sugar and spike your blood sugar as much. And the
Mhm.
same when it comes to vegetables. We've got our non starchy vegetables and we've got our starchy vegetables. So starchy vegetables are going to have more of that sugar, not as much nutrients in them. And so I tell them eat those a little bit more sparingly. So
Mhm.
that's going to be like your corn, your potatoes, um, those vegetables, and to put more of an emphasis on your non-starchy vegetables, which are going to be like your broccoli, your spinach, your green leafy vegetables, because those are going to be lower in calories. They don't have as much sugar in them, and they actually have more nutrients as well.
Mm-hmm. So if you were to design the ideal plate
Mm-hmm.
with focusing on blood sugar, like blood sugar management, what food items would you include for, let's say, for dinner? For food, let's do dinner and dessert, because there's some of us
Yeah.
who love a good dessert and and then after that, I would love to hear your take on um, just types of sugar, right? We know the process, but there's maple, there's honey. Is there a difference? So maybe we can talk about that as well.
Okay, so my ideal plate for dinner. So I would make at least half of my plate up of non-starchy vegetables. So maybe half of my plate would be green beans. I like the actual like fresh long green
Mm-hmm,
beans with the stem at the end.
mm-hmm,
That would be my carb. All
mm-hmm,
right, my non-starchy vegetable. And then I would make sure that I had a protein. Right now, I've kind of been on a seafood kick, so I might do salmon. And
mm-hmm,
so I tell my clients when it comes to protein that you want to make sure that it's got at least 30 to 50 grams at each meal
mm-hmm,
on your plate. And then, so that's my protein. And then I've also got my fat that I want to make sure I have. And so there is some fat in the salmon, but also I can get more fat by what I prepare it with. So I usually cook with or saute with olive oil. So I
mm-hmm.
will probably saute my vegetables in olive oil and then my salmon as well. And then, so you said you want a dessert on there. So do you want a healthy dessert or do you want
I
just
want a dessert that's going to keep the blood sugar in manage the blood sugar.
Okay. So a healthy dessert to me would be like a apple
Mm-hmm,
and to dip it in like a almond butter or some type of nut butter
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
would be an ideal dessert for me. And
mm-hmm,
so I will say when it comes to your nut butters, because it is a fat, that the nuts are considered a fat, that they are going to be higher in calories and of course fat content. So I would probably limit my nut butter to probably like 4 tablespoons. I wouldn't
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't overdo it because it's
Yeah.
sometimes easy to do.
Right. 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 Well, and I think it's helpful sometimes, even when I look at other people's videos, even
Mhm.
though sometimes we know these things. Like most of
Right.
us, if you're watching this channel,
Good point.
you know that we know this stuff. Like
That's a
we
good
know
point.
what to do. But what's helpful, I think, for me, and I've heard it from others, is when you hear it either from a different person,
Right.
or sometimes things just click. Like I have struggled with water forever, and then in the last 3 weeks, something just clicked. I saw another video, something clicked. So hopefully, as we watch this video, again, just as a reminder to everyone, like a lot of these things we know, and it's okay to wherever you are in your journey, let's just take the next right step for us, right? So,
Right. That's a good point because there are people that I feel like are very knowledgeable when they come to me. They
mhm,
know I'm not necessarily telling them anything new. And I think some people are struggling. They do need a little bit more direction because they
mhm,
don't really have a great understanding of nutrition, but they know like I know I need to eat more vegetables. I know I need to
mhm.
eat more fruit. I know I don't need to be in the drive-through line as much as I am.
Right,
And
right.
so it's a pretty easy fix, but then there are some people that are struggling with some deeper rooted things
Yeah.
and really identifying that and getting to the bottom of that so that you can heal your body and do right by it.
Right, right. Because there are things, and this wasn't on our topic, but because
Yeah.
this is the way we talk, but there are emotional triggers. There's things that trigger us
Yes, yes,
to,
yes,
I've had a hard day at work. So guess what? I'm going to have that half a pint of Ben and Jerry's.
yes,
My
yes,
kids are on my nerves, so I'm going to do that. And so I think it's important for us to be honest with ourselves,
absolutely.
and to even at minimum just start being mindful of it. And I think make a little swap, or maybe just eat less. If you eat a half a pint, eat less, just the smallest little step, because it's easy to say, I'm going to go cold turkey. I'm not a cold turkey person. When I say I'm going
Right.
to do something cold turkey, within 3 hours, I'm back at whatever it is I said. So for those of
Right.
us who are not cold turkey people, it's like, just, as you're listening to this, as we talk through this and process through this, wherever you are, just start there. Right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, and that's a good point that some people I do find that it's interesting because you do deal with a lot of different dynamics and personalities, because there are some people that are like, "Okay, I'm gonna start today. I'm gonna
mhm,
do you told me what to do, I'm gonna do it." And then there are other people that are like, "Okay, well, I can really just only do one thing at a time, and I'm
mhm,
going to build up." So, yeah, being honest with yourself, but starting
mhm, mhm,
started. And I do think that change is sometimes hard, especially
mhm.
when you've been doing something for several years. But I do think also sometimes you just have to look in yourself in the mirror, because sometimes you're just being lazy.
Right, right,
And again, it's just kind of being honest with yourself and
right,
really
right.
just doing the hard work. And like I said, there may be some people that need a therapist or
Mhm.
really need to address some deeper rooted issues they're
Yep,
struggling
yep.
with.
And even one thing that I've learned too is, I'm learning in this particular season in my life, just slowing down
Yeah.
helps me to be more even mindful and aware of what is or might be triggering. And then I have the mental space to even make a different decision. But
Right.
when we're going back to, which we talk about cortisol, but when we're dealing with all the things all the time and life is life, and it's hard. And I think we have to be honest with ourselves in a way that is, I think about being gracious with ourselves. Like, we're human beings. We are
Right,
finite beings.
right.
So we can't do everything. We can't be everywhere. We can't solve everything. Even with this, like, one of the things that I think we can do, and you and I've talked about this, we prayed before, like, it's just invite God even into that situation. Like,
Absolutely.
invite him into the choices. Help me, please. Send the Father's help, and
Yeah,
help, because he wants us to be healthy. He wants us to be able to fulfill the things that he's called us to do. And
yeah,
so he's not going to not give us what we need. He said, if we lack for wisdom, one version says, he's not going to shame us. He's
yeah.
going to give us what we need. And so it's okay. But the first step is, we got to be honest where we are.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, because he does give us free will. And
Hmm.
I think if you know God and just know his word and just who he is, then you know that he wouldn't want you to be on this earth and be sick
Right.
and be struggling with different chronic conditions. And I'll even go as far as to say taking pharmaceutical medication,
Mm,
because he's
mm,
really given us everything that we need on this earth to heal our bodies naturally.
mhm,
So, yeah, I don't think we pray enough. I don't think we rely on him enough, and
mhm.
really just tapping into a higher power, because on our own will, we can't do
Right,
anything.
right,
But when we really invite him and we really want to make a change, because I think a lot of
right.
times we say we want to change, but we don't really want to change, but we're really intentional about it and we are on our knees in prayer about it, like he will provide a way.
Mhm, mhm.
And you have to be open to the way that he does
Right,
provide it,
right,
and know that it may not always be free.
right, right.
It may be something that you have to invest in.
Invest in, and it doesn't always taste good. It doesn't
Yeah.
always feel good necessarily.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's a learning process, right? It's a learning process. And you know what? I talked about this in another video too. It's a surrender.
Oh, yeah.
There's surrender is involved. Sometimes we just have to surrender. Okay, so
Yes.
that went down another route, but actually it was necessary, I think. So for us, just as a reminder that we can get, there's help available,
Mhm.
and there are choices that we have to make, right? Like,
Right.
we have to make those choices, and we can just take the next right step towards um, helping to manage the things that we know can affect us. Again, the blood sugar is going to affect everything in our body,
Right.
in addition to the hair. So, anything else that you want to talk about related to specifically blood sugar management? Anything that you think we sort of definitely need to know?
Yeah, I do want to say this, that also when it comes to managing your blood sugar, I would make sure that you're not skipping meals, because I know a lot of times we do that, especially with breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is because we're on the go in the morning, we're trying to get out the door, and we just don't necessarily feel like we need breakfast. And
Mm-hmm.
so just really getting into the habit of making sure that you have at least 3 meals per day. Some people need more based on their lifestyle. And also, I would really encourage you to get out of the habit of snacking,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like snacking is something that we more so really do out of habit than actual need. And also, if you're finding that you feel like you're doing all of the right things, you're doing what I've talked about, supplementing with berberine can also be really effective. And so, just in case you're not familiar with berberine, it is a compound that's extracted from several plants, and it has actually been proven to be just as, if not more effective than metformin.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always tell people, use supplements as a last resort. Make sure you're doing the most holistic things first, especially when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to your nutrition and also with just your lifestyle in general. So making sure that you're moving throughout the day, making sure that you're exercising, also getting enough sleep, managing your stress. Those are going to be
Mm-hmm.
really important too with managing your blood sugar. But that berberine can really just kind of be a chef's kiss to
Mm-hmm.
really help. And it also has been shown to lower your blood pressure as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Is there any type of, because I've seen some, actually, I was taking this too, but are there any types of, what, if from your perspective, what is, because I think there are different types of berberine.
Mhm.
There's like do you have any, not brands, but are there things we should be looking for in, if someone chooses to do this? And as always, I'll say this on this video, we are never providing diagnoses
Right.
or treatment options for you as an individual. We're simply sharing what the information that's out there, and maybe what either we've seen that's effective for us or for those that, in Maggie's sense, that she works with. So just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. And if you are being treated by a physician, continue to do that treatment.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so the types of berberine that you recommend.
So I honestly just kind of focus more on the source, in the sense of making sure that the supplement that you choose is the purest.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, making sure it's third party tested, it doesn't have a bunch of fillers in it. And also I tell people, if it's too cheap, it's probably not the best supplement. And I know
Right.
sometimes when you see a price, you're like, oh my goodness, like I don't know if I want to pay this much, but it's probably a little bit more expensive because it's probably a little bit more potent. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably organic. They probably put a little bit more into the making of it. So
Mm-hmm.
just making sure you're reading the labels, that you're doing your research on the supplement. But of course, making sure that berberine is that primary, that main ingredient.
Mm-hmm. And I had another question that came up. It'll come back. I should have wrote it down. That's why I have my notes here. um, the blood sugar management. Say
Mhm.
if someone um, is might be either, I don't want to say pre-diabetic, but the numbers start creeping up. I think for many of us, as we age, regardless of what we're doing, sometimes the numbers just slowly start creeping up.
Sure.
How long do you think it would take from in general or in a range if someone it decides that I want to make a change and they start implementing some of the things that we've talked about? Is does it take 3 months, 6 months, a year? Like how does our body respond when we start making these changes?
Right. So when you get your hemoglobin A1C checked, that's an average of your blood sugars over the last 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to tell people, just being transparent, I used to say, if you do what I say, you're going to see a significant improvement in your hemoglobin A1C in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I would even go as far as to say like a total percentage point. So if you were at 6.8, like if you do what I say, I can get you down to 5.8. And I
Mhm.
still stand behind that I can get you down. But what I've noticed is that everyone is so different. So I
Mhm.
actually had a client, she reached out to me last week and she was like, I went and got my levels rechecked, but I only went down 0.1%. Now,
Mhm.
now, mind you, she had lost 14 pounds, but her
Mhm.
hemoglobin A1C only went down 0.1%. And even though she had accomplished such a big goal of losing all that weight, it was
Mhm.
kind of hard for her because she was like, I only went down 0.1 percentage. And a lot of doctors, they're not going to want to make a big adjustment to your medications and do,
Mhm.
take you off or do maybe what you are hoping they will do with just that little of a change. But I will say, if that's you, keep going,
Mhm.
um, and know that in time, if you remain consistent, it will go down. Now, I can't really speak because I do feel like everyone is so different. There are some
Mhm.
people where they can get their numbers down in 3 to 6 months significantly, but then other people, it may take you a year or maybe even longer.
Mhm.
But that's kind of what I led with in the beginning. Don't give up on your health. A lot of times, if we don't see results as fast as we feel like we should
Yeah.
see them, we're just like, you know what, I'm gonna go back to the old way that I was doing.
Right. Right.
But I really want to encourage you to just keep going and know that if you keep doing the right thing, the most holistic thing, which I promote, then it will go down. But it is
Mhm.
different for everyone.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. So let's transition. Well, actually, no, the last thing I want to talk about is stress and blood sugar and then sleep. Does it, so I've noticed sometimes that if I have a rough night's sleep, I
Yeah.
might see a little bit elevated. So is that, am I making stuff up? Is that real? But yeah, so how does stress impact our blood sugar?
No, that is real. It is real. It is something to that. So, actually, when you don't get enough sleep or when you are struggling with high stress levels, what that does is that raises your cortisol levels. And when your cortisol levels are elevated, that can also lead to high blood sugar levels.
Mhm.
So, that's why it really is. And it's so amazing to me because everything within our bodies is really connected. And so that's why taking the most holistic approach to your health in general is really just going to help everything. It's going to help
Mhm.
lower your
Mhm.
cortisol. It's going to help lower your blood sugar, which in turn is going to help you lower your weight and help you get to the point where you're reversing chronic conditions. So, no, there is something to getting enough sleep and
Mhm.
managing stress.
Mhm. Mhm. I thought so. So, so speaking of stress,
Uh huh.
let's transition. Let's talk a little bit about cortisol. So, can you give us sort of explain to us what is cortisol, its impact on our health, and how we can manage it, and any connection. I mean, I've seen articles, I've enough articles and read about it, how it, the high levels of stress increases cortisol, which increases inflammation, which can impact, those who are prone to hair loss. So can you talk to a little bit? This is your time to talk about.
Yes, I love talking about cortisol. I
Yeah.
love talking about it. And it's really the missing link for a lot of people.
Mm,
And so cortisol, it's your body's main stress hormone. And so it works with certain parts of your brain to control your mood, motivation, and fear. And so your adrenal glands, those triangle shaped organs at the top of your kidneys, that's what makes cortisol, those glands. And so cortisol plays a really, really important role in the body, and it manages how your body uses carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. It helps to keep inflammation down. It helps regulate your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your body's stress response system, and it controls your sleep wake cycle. And so, higher than normal or even lower than normal cortisol levels can actually be really harmful to your health.
mm,
And kind of like what we talked about earlier when it comes to stress. So many of us live really stressful lives
mhm,
and we're under constant pressure and we're in that constant state of fight or flight. And so, if we go back to grade school, when we should have learned about fight or flight, that mechanism, it's supposed to be a state that you really just stay in for a short period of time. So, after that pressure or that danger has passed, your cortisol levels should calm down and your heart, blood pressure, and other body systems will go back to normal and you just go on about your normal life. However, a lot of us are under constant stress. And so we're
Mhm.
just constantly in that fight or flight state. And so being in that state can really derail your body's most important functions. And it can lead to a number of health problems like anxiety, depression, headaches, heart disease,
Mhm.
memory, concentration problems, problems with digestion, trouble sleeping, weight gain. And so that's why it's really important to learn how to effectively manage your stress. And something else I've noticed is that a lot of times, like, we'll go to the doctor and we'll complain about, I feel bloated. I feel I'm not digesting properly. Like, I'm not sleeping well. I'm having headaches. And so, what we have to understand about the current healthcare system, and especially when it comes to medical school, is that our doctors go to school to learn how to diagnose and prescribe. So, they're not necessarily trained to get to the root cause of things.
Mhm.
And so you go and you complain about these things, and what are they most likely going to do, especially with how we're set up where you only get a short amount of time with them?
Mhm.
They're going to give you a medication that's designed for headaches, that's designed to help you with digestion, with whatever it is you say that you're struggling with. And so I tell people that all pharmaceutical medications come with side effects. And so now you've really compounded your problem because you're struggling with these high cortisol levels, and now you're struggling with the side effects from these pharmaceutical medications. And
Mhm.
something that I've also seen is that a lot of us are on these meds and we're not getting any better.
Mhm.
And so starting with your cortisol and addressing that and really seeing if that is high can really be a breakthrough when it comes to your health. And it's not necessarily going and getting that level tested from your doctor. It really starts with just taking an honest assessment of your life.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, do I lash out at people when something happens to me? When I'm
Mhm.
in traffic, am I ready to get my gun out and just explode?
Mhm.
Am I always constantly on edge? When my kids say something to me or my husband says something to me, do I just explode? So it kind of starts more than that. And
Mhm.
if we look at that, those can really kind of help us to identify if our cortisol is an issue.
That was my next question, was like, how can we manage it without necessarily doing a blood test, right? Because the blood tests, I yeah, we can get those, but I'm wondering how, or maybe this is the question: how often does the cortisol fluctuate? Is it fluctuating on a daily basis? Is it fluctuating on an hourly basis? Like, well,
That's a good point. I think honestly, when it comes to cortisol, it's something that kind of builds up. Like,
mhm.
if you have a stressful day, I don't necessarily think that you're going to just from there have elevated cortisol levels. This
Mhm.
is something that it has built up over time.
Mhm.
Just my personal opinion
Yeah,
when it
yeah,
comes to
yeah,
that.
yeah. So when thinking about the ways that we can manage our stress levels, I think that's
Mhm.
the piece, because the reality is stress is here. It's
Yes.
not a matter of I don't want to have any more stress. It's here. The Bible, actually, the word promises you're going to have struggles, you're going to have suffering. It's
Yeah.
here. The question is, what are we going to do when it arrives, right? And so, and how are we prepared, and or how do we for us practically, how do we manage it? Because the um the stress, I'll just make it even more practical: the stress that causes hair loss and the stress from hair loss, right? There's some stress that we have, I think, that is a result of the hair loss. I'm stressed out because I don't have hair, and then the
Right.
other part is I'm stressed out and I it's causing the hair loss. It's still
Right.
stress either way. So the question is kind of, from when we talk about managing cortisol,
Mhm.
um, what are your some practical tips and things, from your perspective, that you think we can do on a regular basis without, again, causing more stress? So got to do these 10 things, right? How do we lean into to supporting management?
Right. And I think the first thing is doing what I just mentioned, is really just taking an honest look at your life and just assessing how you react to things, just your overall mindset, how you view life is going to be really important, because the first thing you have to do to address anything, in my opinion, is to look in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually have quite a few tips when it comes to cortisol. So bear with me, but the first thing I would say is to make sure that you're nourishing your body with real whole foods,
Mm-hmm.
because what you eat matters, you all. And I think it's just so ironic. It's ironic, but it's not ironic how we've seen such an emergence of fast food, processed food, and how now we're just seeing so much more anxiety and depression and chronic diseases. And it just really is something to what you're eating. Like, it's more important than you realize, because a lot of these foods, they have chemicals that's throwing off our hormonal balance and our and just our bodies in general. So
Mm-hmm.
really making sure that you invest in yourself and that you're eating real whole foods.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I would say is making sure that you're moving throughout the day. So a lot of us have very sedentary jobs, and there are many of us that we could literally sit at our desk all day
Mm-hmm.
long and not move. And then that, to me, has accelerated because a lot of us work from home now.
Right,
So
right.
we can literally go from our desk to our bed. And some of us are probably working in our bed if we don't have to be on camera. So, making sure that you're moving, your body wants to move. Your body was made to move. If you just look down, you will
Mm-hmm.
see that your body was made to move. So making sure that you're moving throughout the day, getting outside. A lot of us are inside all day long, allowing the sun to touch your skin,
Mm-hmm.
because there are healing properties even when it comes to the sun. Even though I think sometimes if you talk to a esthetician, they tell you to avoid the sun,
Right, right.
but the sun really is actually very healing and has a lot of good properties for us. So
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you're moving throughout the day. I tell people at least 7,000 steps per day is a really good place to aim.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but just doing your best, but
Mm-hmm.
also making sure that you're moving and that you're exercising, because there is a difference between the two. So I have really been on a kick of advising people to do more low impact exercise versus intensity exercises.
Mm-hmm.
So there's sometimes when it comes to exercise, less really is more, you all, especially if you're struggling with high cortisol levels. If you're doing high intensity exercises, that's just going to raise your
Right.
cortisol even higher. So just doing things like walking, swimming, if you've got a bike, riding a bike, doing more things that Pilates, yoga, just doing more of those types of exercises can help. Also, making sure that you're getting at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. This is something that is really, 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 really important, you all, that we don't talk about enough.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to sleep, there are so many good things that happen to your body. That's where the body is able to recover, to rejuvenate. And what I find is that a lot of us are just up at night doing nothing.
Yep.
Like you're up scrolling social media, you're up watching Netflix, you'll watch a whole series in a night, and then you go to work and you're drained, you're short fused. And a lot of that could be mitigated if you would go to bed at night.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
7 to 9 hours of sleep, and that's kind of somewhat in my mind like a big range.
Mm-hmm.
But the more like in tune you get with your body, the more you will know what you need. So I know
Right.
I need 8.
Mm-hmm.
You might need 7.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else may
Mm-hmm.
need 9. So, but just really doing the work and going to bed and seeing what your body needs most.
Mm-hmm.
So that was number 3. So number 4, supplementing with adaptogens. So adaptogens are items like L-theanine, magnesium glycinate, holy basil, reishi mushroom, ashwagandha. So they can really help to just kind of take that edge off and help you to relax a little bit more. So my favorite is L-theanine. And what I found is that when I incorporate it into these principles that I'm going to talk to you all about, it just, like I said, helps to kind of take that edge off. So
Mm-hmm.
finding what works best for you. So number 5, cold therapy. So things like cryo chamber, cold showers, putting ice on your face, like just an ice cube and rubbing it on your face or on the back of your neck can actually help you to relax and
Mm.
bring those cortisol levels down. Number 6, I think I'm at number 6, is one of my favorites and something that I've been doing almost every single day is breath work. So a lot of us, if we think about it, we don't really breathe. And when we get in anxious situations, a lot of times we hold our breath or we're taking really shallow breaths. So when you do breath work, it actually forces you to breathe in deep, to exhale, and just really get in touch with your body. So my favorite that I've been doing on YouTube is the Wim Hof method, W-I-M, first name, Hoff, H-O-F-F. And the video has like 84 million views right now. But basically, he just takes you through a guided breathing meditation or work. And it really does help you to relax. And then next, it's really getting your mind right, you all. So the Bible says that as a man thinketh, so is he.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to look at yourself and ask, what is my mindset like? What is my overall outlook on life? Like, do you believe in yourself? So I talk to a lot of people and you're just negative. And I don't think you mean to be, but maybe life has just kind of cause you to be that way, but everything you speak is just negative. You complain about everything, like you're not enjoyable to be around. And the interesting thing is a lot of these people are Christians. You believe in God. And so you really have to change the way that you think. And once you do that, you can really change your life. And even just with little things, because people will tell me, like, I want to get off my metformin, I want to get off my blood pressure medicines, but I don't know if it's possible. And that's really depressing to me because I feel like our healthcare system has really warped our mind to make us think that we have to have pharmaceutical medications in order to manage our diseases. And really too, they've taught you that that's all you can do is manage, when the reality is you can reverse your chronic diseases. Like, you don't have to live like this. So really just changing the way that you think about things and knowing that with God, you can do anything.
Yeah.
And then next would be meditating. So a lot of us, we don't get a lot of time to ourselves. We're at work all day. If you have kids and a husband, you may be around your kids the rest of the day, and your husband, you're catering to them. So a lot of us don't really get in a lot of alone time. So really just taking a couple of minutes a day to do a silent or even a guided meditation and just being alone with your thoughts and choosing positive statements to meditate on. The next I would say is having a gratitude routine. So a lot of us just don't realize how blessed we are. And so when you don't realize that, I feel like it can kind of change your outlook on life. But what you have to understand is there are people that cannot walk. There are people that cannot talk. They have to get people to feed them, to wipe their bottom. So just even the act of being able to get out of your bed, to take care of yourself, to have a job. There are many people that want a job and don't have a job. So just really reflecting on the things that you have to be grateful for. And then also getting organized. I found that a lot of us, our lives are so chaotic and we're in fight or flight because you're just all over the place. And really, if you would just take a few minutes every day to get organized, writing out a to-do list, that would help you to be less stressed. So you can do that in the morning or the night before, just really mapping out everything that you have to do, and that would help you. Also, getting out of victim mentality. So, like I said earlier, a lot of us have had, and especially being a nurse, I've heard a lot of things, and a lot of us have been through a lot of devastating things, a lot of things that we did not deserve.
Mhm.
And we have held on to that. And because we have held on to that, it's really kept us stuck. So,
Mhm.
really getting out of that victim mentality and really moving forward with your life is going to be essential. And for some people, you might have to get additional help. You might need a therapist or a life coach or someone that can really work with you and help you to identify those things. But getting out of that victim mentality and moving
Mhm.
forward so that you can heal, because a lot of times when we harbor unforgiveness and resentment and bitterness in our body, that manifests in back pain and digestive problems and
Mhm.
hair loss. So when we're able to really break through with that, our bodies can really heal.
Mhm. Mhm. So I love that list. The majority of the items are free, right, or low cost, right? And so that's another thing for us to be mindful of, right? A lot of these things we don't even need to put an ounce of money to.
Right.
We just need to put our intention to it. Um, like you, L-theanine has been a game changer for me for sleep. So I take a supplement that has L-theanine, for sleep, and I take magnesium glycinate at night. Like that's my routine that has completely shifted. Even being in perimenopause, menopause helped
Yes.
me to actually get real restorative sleep. So I highly recommend that for everyone. And then you were also, when you were talking about mindset, and there were a couple scriptures that stood out to me even last year.
Hmm.
And I think it was either the Message version or the Passion version. And one of them was what Jesus was saying, become what you believe,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
That was one. And then the other one was like, if you want this resurrection life, then act like it, right? Like it's like we have it. They're gifts that we've been given. It's
Right.
now time for us to step into it,
Right.
right? And so yeah, I love that list. I'm working on those things, right?
Yeah, it's a
I am.
process.
I'm
Absolutely.
I'm working on those things, and especially the breathing and the sleep. I just started the last couple of weeks at night, like laying in the bed, just I'm walking backwards through my day,
Yeah.
and stating the things that
I like that.
I might have done it last year a little bit too. It just came back again. But walking backwards through my day, I feel like we might have said this before. Walking backwards through my day, and just where did I see God? Where what am I grateful for? Things that happened, or things that maybe I could have did better here, or just
Yeah.
walking back through is another time to sort of ground and center
Right.
and round out the day. So I'm grateful for those ideas. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, do you want to share? I think on our notes we had a couple of ways to close, right? Any sort of case studies or things people that you've seen success with, or um, any additional sort of. And I like to do the sort of the what is the next right thing that you should do, right? So,
Yeah.
what is the next right thing for the person who has already I won't even put a description on it. What is the next right thing? We have people in various stages in life, various levels of blood sugar and cortisol management, varying levels of hair loss. Like, what, from your perspective, when we're thinking about um, healing and blood sugar management and cortisol, that they should really, what can they do today?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. So I've actually started reading a new book. It's called A Woman After God's Own Heart. And
Hmm.
one of the things that she talks about in the book is before you make a decision, consulting with God first.
Hmm.
And so I really like that because I feel like it's not something that I've done a lot.
Hmm.
And I think when you don't, things don't always go the best for you.
Hmm.
So I would just, because I have given a lot of tips, and
Hmm.
for some people, it can be somewhat overwhelming. So I
Hmm.
think just really taking an honest assessment of where you are, of your life. And if you are a person of faith, praying about what the next step should be for you to take. And I've been getting a lot of messages about fasting here lately.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that can be really helpful too, to help you get instructions.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just really not into anymore just making very sudden decisions. I think sometimes too, you have to trust yourself and your body. And I think the more you do these holistic things and really get back in tune with your body and with God, the right thing to do will come to you.
Mm-hmm.
Even with
Mm-hmm.
listening to this, like there are some points that probably resonated with you more than others.
Right.
Really reflecting on what we've talked about today, looking at your own life and really just sitting down, having quiet time and praying about it, and really allowing yourself to hear what the Lord is telling you and moving in that direction. Because some people do come to me and they're like, I don't want to be on meds anymore. Like I don't want to go to the doctor and be on all these pharmaceutical meds anymore. And then there are other people that don't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know, and like I said, we're all led through different means and different directions. So just doing what you feel like is best for you.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very wise approach, considering that with as many views as we get, that's going to be as many sort of different directions that someone could take. And I was
Right.
thinking today, actually, even just the phrase that kept coming up to me was about like sort of the exchange, right? So you know how in the word it says beauty for ashes
Mhm.
and joy for mourning, and even praying about what can I exchange? Like, Lord, what can I give you and get and receive from you? Like maybe I need to give up
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. And so what will you give me and what will you give me in return? I receive what you give me in return. So I not an answer. It's just a thought that came up, because I think the one thing, even on this channel, like we're all in this together. And we're not alone, and we don't have to solve everything. In
Right.
fact, we can't even solve it. What we need to do is learn how to be receptive,
Right.
right? To be honest and be receptive and then take action. So I really appreciate you for taking time to share your expertise, your wisdom.
Thank you for
And
having.
so, what we want to make sure we tell people where they can find you and what do you have coming up? Do you have anything that we need to plug into or anything that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. So my handles are pretty much Maggie Bell Nutrition. And I actually have a website as well, www.maggiebellnutrition.com. And you can schedule a free discovery call with me. I don't have any appointments this month, but so just so you'll know if you do go on there. But I would love to talk to you, just kind of see what your goals are, just see how I can support you on your journey. So if you feel led to, definitely schedule a call with me. And then I also have an upcoming nutrition masterclass where I'm going to be teaching a small group of people nutrition basics and wellness principles. So I've been a dietitian for almost 13 years now and a nurse for almost a decade. And
Mhm.
what I found is that people just don't have a basic understanding of nutrition and even just wellness principles. And so
Mhm.
once you're able to get that foundation and then really hold yourself accountable, you can really achieve so much. So I'm
Mhm.
going to be doing a masterclass where I'll be teaching you about those things. And the class is actually going to last about 3 hours, if not
Okay.
longer. And so we're going to start the first hour with goal setting, and then me teaching you everything that it comes to when it comes to nutrition and wellness. Then the next hour, we're going to have a question and answer session. And then the next hour, we're going to actually be implementing,
Mhm.
developing a practical plan that
Okay.
you're going to implement. And you're gonna share with the group and myself what you're going to do on a daily and weekly basis and
Okay.
how you're going to hold yourself accountable. So it's not your typical masterclass. We're really going to dive deep into a lot of principles. You're going to have the chance to ask questions. I'm going to ask you all questions to make sure that you really understand what I have taught you. And then we're going to have an implementation, because that's a missing key for a lot of people too. You know what to do, but you have
Mhm.
no plan
Mhm.
on how to implement it. So I'm going to cover you on all of that.
Awesome. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I'm excited. I'm excited for you for this group too. So we're going to link everything in the description box.
Mhm.
So we'll link to the website. We'll link to your social media platforms. If you have a link for your program, we'll put that in there as well. So we'll put everything in the description box. Please follow Maggie. Please tap into this amazing resource that she's providing for us. And I cannot thank you enough for making time
Yes.
to come and to share and to put all these good words out here for us and to encourage us. So thank you so much, Maggie. And thank you all for watching, and live well, live blessed, and we'll see you in the next video.